Okay, let's begin by writing the program together. And up to this point, we have already covered how to get the data from Yahoo Finance and also how to put the data into some calculations and find out the criteria we want. And also, we have learned how to create a new database by using the MariaDB. And then to also test the table by inserting the test data. So after part C, the last code we have run it, we will see in the terminal is something like this to indicate that there is a testing data successfully insert into the table. So now in part D, I'm going to write the code and make it more scalable. And I've already copied the criteria I want in these sessions. And then first of all, since our program is constantly requesting the database, so I also want to create another new Python file to name it as the part D. And let's say this is the DB operation. So it should be responsible for handling all the database inquiry. And first of all, in our actual main program, I also need to import the useful database. So I should be import the pandas data reader. So up to this point, we have already import a lot, so it should be okay. And then let's say we can continue from our generator thing. So basically, I can just copy the whole thing and paste it into our main function here. Let's say something like this. So here we already define how we display the data, and also we have some basic calculation. And in the main method, we now need to expand a little bit. So let's say when we've when when the user enter a particular ticker, such as we have mentioned before, such as Tesla, so it should be able to get the data and also do the operation and then add the result to the database. So we need to, let's say, make make the output to be more descriptive. So instead of only saying enter the stock ticker, we have to rewrite as something like this, and then start from enter valid stock ticker to start analyze. And then there are a few options for the user. So one will be and the user is also able to print out the result from database. So we'll say or input the print to list the table which have the name of stock statistic. Table. And then I also want it to be printing alphabetically based on the ticker. And then there is also another option for the user to print the same table, but ranking by the order by the custom score. So I also want to say something like print mass. Print mass to list the stock table. And then order by wave score. And then there should also be a option for the user to only print one entry, the one with the highest score. So I will say max only to print, to list in the table. In the table, having the highest score. And the user should also be able to delete the entry. We can also say by, let's say, the user input should be delete spacebar and a particular ticker. So let's say to delete existing corresponding for example, the Tesla. And then finally, the user should be able to manually exit the program. So, or exit to exit the program. And then the last sentence just indicate the input field. So I would say input, and that's it. And since we will do different things according to the user input, so it is better for us to use the case. For the case in Python, we are going to use the match. So the keyword is match, and then we are checking the text input. And then we should have multiple case. So case 1, the first case will be when it equals to exit. So it is easy because we just need to terminate the program. So the next case will be print. If we are going to print if the user enter the print, we should pass the request to the database operation. So now we will have a look side by side and study what should be in the database. First of all, we can also reuse some of the code from the part C, the select function or the here. So basically, we just need to use the same import here. And then this is the point to connect with the actual database. So there will be a function in the main, it will call the function. So we need to call the function from the other file. In order to do so, we need to import the whole file at the top. So I will say import and then part the db operation. So it's more like the package thing in the Java. And afterwards, we can call the whole thing directly by saying that, okay, so I will try to call the function. Remember of the indentation, and then let's say it should be print the table. Okay, so I will create a method called print table. And then meanwhile, we also need the thing in here. So we will define a function called the print table. So all I need to do is just read the SQL. So it should be easy to understand. So I'm going to print and then use the pandas for the read SQL. And the SQL statement will be select all the thing from our table stock statistic. Keep the connection to be our engine. All right, so before I try to run the program, I will also need to define the default in the case. So to do so, we need to do something like this: the case and then underscore and then the colon. So for the normal thing, and then we just need to, let's say, print the message to be default. And then let's say we can start the program and see. Oh, sorry. All right, so I also have 3 default options. So let's say we try to print. So you can see that it is printing something more than I expected, because in the engine I copied from our previous sample code. I also have the echo thing, so we better turn it off. So we don't need to read all the actual statement in the terminal screen. So run it again. So now when I press print, I should only be printing this thing, and the whole program repeat. To better separate the thing, I also insert one more line here. It should look better. So now we can work on completing the other functions. The next one I'm going to do will be the. So I also have the print max, right? So I would say print maximum. And the print max should be similar. So I just copy the same calling signature. The only thing is different is that we are now printing with a certain sorting. So I will say print table order by the score, right? So we have something like this. So in the meantime, I also create another function in the DB operation, which will be this one. And all I need to do is just insert one more sentence to be order by. So the column will be in the 6. So it will be the first column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I will say order by 6, and then by descending order. That's pretty much. We already finished the other options. But the point is we cannot test it now because we only have one entry in our database. So I also need to figure out a method to insert more data first. So if the user enter a ticket value, which should usually be 4 characters or less than 4. So let's say one of the valid input will be Adobe ADBE. Uh, so if the system check it is not exceed, it is not print and it's not print max, so I will come and check. So I will say I will start to load the data by calling its own method called the load taker. And the load taker, the whole structure is the same as the part B. So I just copy the whole thing from part B, and then I can just call the method. So I would say load taker, and then the taker input. So remember how I decide the thing is that the load taker method will return a dictionary here. So we can directly pass the dictionary to our DB operation. Oh, remember to have a column after each of the definition, so that when I receive the whole dictionary, I can make use of the pandas and insert the whole thing into the database. So in our database, we will define a new function called the insert new row. And then the input will be the taker dictionary. And I will make the dictionary in the data frame structure. So it should be pd.data frame and then from dictionary and then pass the input here. So now I have a working data frame format. I can try to insert the thing. So let's say data df.to SQL. The whole structure was covered in my previous blog. So if you are not familiar with that, you can check the previous blog to get the method of how to insert into the database. So I'm going to insert the table name, which is statistic. And the connection is still the engine. So we have some extra instruction. If exists, we will do the append. And usually we also need to state the chunk size, which will be, let's say 1,000. And then we need to return we need to state the index to be false. So this is how we are going to insert the data frame object in the table by execute the thing. And there might be some problem because in our table structure, when you remember, the moment when I create the table, I make the ticker to be the PK, to be the primary key. So if the user enter the same ticker name one more time, it should give you an error because you cannot insert because the PK is violated. So you need to handle the data. Let's say we can let the program run and see what's the error. So let's say I will print the result. So I will print the data dictionary. And also I will print the successful message. Okay, that's it. Let's try to run it and see. And in our main method, I will call the thing. So I will just call the insert row. And then I will pass the dictionary into here. And then that's it. So let's say if I run it. So let's say if I run the Adobe, Based on the DB operation, I will have a result returning. So it is one of the. So this is the score, the data, the statistic of the Adobe. And we have already inserted the whole thing into the table. So now if I try to print it, the table will have another entry. So let's say I will try, of course, Tesla, right? And when I start to print it, it will have 3. And if I try to do the print max, it should be sorted based on the wave score. Let's see. Print, I think I have a spelling mistake here. Okay, just run again. It always happens. All right, so if I do the print max, okay, so you can see it will now print the table based on the order I want. And the error I mentioned earlier is something like when I enter the Adobe again, it cannot be added because there will be an error called the integrity error violating the PK. In order to handle it, we can also use the try and catch, but the syntax is a little bit different in Python. So we should surround the insert statement in the try. The whole thing should be indented now. And then it's telling me I have something missing because the try should be together with the except. The except is the exception handler. And then we can just pass the error name to our code. If we find the error, so we will say we will say something like the stock the stock statistic is already in the table. So please enter another ticker value. And you can also notice that there is a red curly line under here because we don't know about the integrity error based on our import. In order to let the Python knows, we also need something in the header, which is we just need the same thing here. So let's say I just copy the whole thing. This is the error we want to handle. So we just need to say from the SQL alchemy, we also need to import the rest. So I also say .exe import the error code here. So this is one of the way to let the Python know there is an already well-defined error. And when we encounter the same error, we should do the custom thing. So now when we try to run the same program, when I do the same thing, so I will say there will be a error message. The stock statistic is already in the table. Please another ticker value, and that's it. And then we should also indicate a successful thing, and then it's just a sentence called it has been added to the table. All right, so we are more than halfway done. So just to expand a little bit to be easier to read, and then all right, so what else? And I also want to print the only the only winner, the one with the highest score. And so I will just copy and paste, do the lazy stuff, and then this one we should call it to be max only, right? There are a few options to do it. I prefer to reuse the same code, and so we can pass the same. We can call the same method. Let's say we are going to pass the number as the argument. So here we also will have something called a mode, and then we can also do the same. If the mode is equals to 0, I will execute the same thing as before. If the mode equals to 1, you can just use else, or you can also use the case, but it's just two options, so I'll use the if then. And then in MariaDB, the syntax is similar to MySQL, so I will say limit 1 to make sure only the top entry should be displayed. We can test it, and let's see. If I now enter the print, max only the top one will be displayed. Okay. So let's say if I enter something crazy, let's say this thing. Because it should always goes into the default and it cannot load the data. So we also need to handle the error. So we can also use the same tricks. The error should be something like this, and then we can just copy and handle the data. So let's say that the error is something like this. So I would say from this one, and then import the remote data error. And then here we can use the try to handle it. Or okay, let me see. Try the thing. And then this is one of the way to do it. And then accept the remote error. So we would say invalid ticker. Please try again. All right, so when I run it, so once we cannot load the financial data, it will say invalid ticker, please try again. And then just one more thing, I also want to handle the delete. So the delete should also be handled in some of the case. I will try to handle in here. If the ticket input starts with DEL spacebar. If it starts with this one, I will try to do the delete. So I will say I will pass the remaining of the string to the operation, and then we will have something like delete row. and the input should be the substring of the ticker input. To get a substring, it should be extremely easy in Python because we can use the double column thing. So we will say something like this. So it starts from index 4 up to the end with the normal order. So this one, so let's say if I have D L I D B E, and then this one will only read A D B E. Delete row. So I also need to create a method called the delete row and pass in the ticker. So usually I will say the engine dot execute and then delete from stock test statistic. Where? And that's it. So it will allow the user to delete the ticker. And of course, we should need to handle some data, some error handling. Let's say if the, and then we use the else. And the whole thing should be intended. Okay. Okay, so the things should be deleted from the table. Let's say we print the table. You can see it's gone, right? So I also have the chance to delete the test data now. Just one more thing I want to add to indicate it is successfully deleted. But there's no way to test it because if I try to delete ADBE again, there is no error showing from the Python because for the delete, remember when we are doing in Java, we will also do the row count to indicate if it successfully got the delete. So we also do the same trick in the Python. So we can do the if statement here. So here we can further get the row count. So we can say the whole thing. If the row count is greater than 0, meaning that something has been deleted. Entry deleted. Oh. And else print low matching result, low entry is deleted. And we can also do a basic introduction here. Searching for the ticker. In the table. Okay, we are almost done. So now we can try the thing here. So let's insert a few more data. So AMD and maybe NVIDIA. And also let's say Apple and Microsoft. Okay, one more, maybe Google then. So now when we print the whole table, we will already have something like this, right? And then we can try to delete AMD. It's telling the user is searching and the entry is deleted. So when now I also do it again. Low matching result, low entry is deleted. And then we can also test the other function again. Print max. So it will start to print all the thing, ranking by the wave score. And max only. And the last thing is to be exit. Okay. And that's pretty much of the program. So if you are interested in doing the similar thing, feel free to tweak the parameter, especially for the wave score, because the waving factor I only input based on my own preference, and then you can try to use another combination and see who is the winner or among all the stocks. And that's it. Oh, one more thing before I end. In the beginning, I only limit the maximum rows to be 40. So if you want to display a few more data, it will try, in the end, it will try to be minimized. So if there is an issue, you can remember to increase the maximum rows so that it can print more rows. And that's pretty much of the video walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed it, and then see you later. Bye bye.